Well, yes, it is. I mean, my eye is just dripping, weeping, so let's see. I guess, so, all right, what is that? No, okay. There's Neil. Hi, Neil.
Hi, Neil.
All right,
Good evening.
there's
Good
Dominic.
evening. How are you all?
Ready. Let's see, people are joining. So, okay. Hi, Roger.
Good evening.
Roger, you have a different painting up behind you tonight.
Yes. Oh,
I noticed.
yeah. I think that one just moved to a different room. The
Hi, Andrea.
seasonal decorations are still up.
Right.
And I heard from Brad that he is joining remotely, although I haven't seen him yet.
And Molly is not,
Molly is not. joining.
but we have a quorum.
We have
Right,
more.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Shall we begin? Are you ready to take minutes? All right. We have opened the meeting at 7:01 p.m. Most of us are in the room. We will have a few members that will be remote, and the rest of the community is remote, and our special guests, of course, are remote. Do I have any public comment? If you have public comment, please raise your hand so we can see. Amanda, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm here with my customary 2 questions. First off, I noticed that the square footage of the building seems to have shrunk from 4,900 square feet to 4,334, I believe. I guess I missed that. Could you give me like a condensed version of when and why that happened?
Sure. So basically, we needed to reduce the footprint of the building so that we could build the building without fire suppression system. So by code, we would need to provide a fire suppression system, i.e. Sprinklers, if the building is larger than 5,000 square feet.
Yep. I know that.
So that's basically what happened during the SD redesign. And we've been working with the scheme to meet that requirement so that we don't have to incur the cost to put sprinklers in the building.
Right. So you dropped it to 4,900 for that reason, right? That was a while ago. But now it's down to 4,334. I mean, according to your last meeting. And the NOI, I think.
I haven't seen.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly on those numbers. I don't have it exactly in front of me. That they sound a little off, but
Easy enough to check them.
Sure. The restriction is also for the roof perimeter. And so we've been finessing the building footprint so that we have an eve condition, specifically at entry and exit conditions. We have an entry porch condition. And so we've been massaging the plan and the roof perimeter so that we still meet that requirement.
Okay, well, something's been massaged off, like a lot of square footage. So check the NOI.
Excuse me.
Can I just clarify? So the roof square footage was 4,900.
That's right.
Because the roof is the number that needs to be under 5,000. The footprint was always going to be smaller than that.
Oh,
and so it's not anything that's been massaged or anything that anyone has tried to hide. It's something we've been talking about and working very hard to make sure that we could fit our program elements And there has to be, some of the roof has to hang over the edge of the building. You can't have the walls of the building go right up to the edge of the roof.
Right.
So that's what it is. And that is something that we have discussed in meetings. But we maybe haven't discussed it, more than once. That was something that we discussed and we were all aware of from the very beginning.
Mhm.
I don't think it was in writing before. That was, so maybe that's it. That was the first time I saw it in writing, so I wondered about it. So the second one then, thank you, is, has the committee seen any reports from Fuss and O'Neill regarding the work done on the septic and leach field system on Lotto 32? I assume that some reports have been created out of that task. I just wondered if you guys have seen them.
No, no, we haven't. So the septic design is due to Fuss and O'Neill from their subcontractor by the end of this week. So we haven't even septic design yet. We just know where the septic system is going to be on the lot.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You, Mary Lou, you have your hand raised?
Yes, hi, good evening. My name is Mary Lou Conca. I'm a member of the Lot 032 remediation group, and I have two comments to make. Am I understanding correctly after Mr. Witt spoke that this library, a building to hold paper books, is not going to have a sprinkler system?
That is correct.
And wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
the quick explanation for that is the sprinkler system is not to protect the building. The sprinkler system is there to protect the people egressing the building during a fire event.
What is egressing, please?
To exit the building.
So
so-
either way, the system will not be there.
A sprinkler system does not protect the
The
library.
contents.
Correct. I
No, no,
only
we-
brought that up because paper books are, easily flammable.
Right, we have discussed this, you can take a look at our previous meeting minutes, and we have discussed this as to why we did that. Do you have a
Right.
Question?
Yes, I have a second request. The bathroom facilities in this library right now are compost. And I was hoping that that would be considered in our new building.
We can't consider that in our building.
Oh, yes, you can. Is-
Not according- not
Wait a minute, who's,
MLG, MDLC,
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
Elaine,
Elaine, you can consider that in a public building. There are compostable toilets all up and down the highways.
yes.
So, I'm sorry, and you have one already in this library that is a public building. So I'm a bit confused why it would not have been considered.
Mary Ann, would you like to respond?
Yes, so in order to have a composting toilet, there would have to be a basement, and there's not going to be a basement in this building. And the cost of putting in a basement just for the purpose of having composting toilets would be cost prohibitive. Composting toilets are often installed in places where there are water issues. We don't have a lack of water for toilet use at Lot 032. And the composting toilet at the current library has not been used for almost 4 years now because it is not safe to use. It's not safe for the person whose job it is to have to empty it by hand. So we had an experiment with a composting toilet. It was a failed experiment, and it's not practical to put composting toilets in our new library. We're working very hard to build a practical building.
Okay, so on that note, if I might, you're saying there are no water issues on lot 032?
There are no lack of water issues or water issues that have been identified on lot 032.
So there are no PFAS that have been found on lot 032? Is what you're saying, Marianne?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. On closing public comment, I'd like to review the minutes of December 19th. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of December 19th?
Is that fair?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Do I hear a second?
Dale seconds.
Okay, are there any corrections, additions, or comments? Hearing none. I will go for a roll call vote.
Antonellis, aye.
Down side.
Foster, aye. Poole, aye.
Jake's eye.
Paleo, aye.
We know our order.
Do you know your order by now? It's always alphabetical for meeting minutes purposes. It's so much help. Okay, moving on to the minutes of December 28th. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of December 28th?
I have a question or an addition.
Can we motion the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, all right, now comments.
Penny, did you get?
I haven't made that change yet, but I'm,
That is, yes.
yes. But I,
So,
okay, I will make those two, typos, quick. And I will publicly say, thank you for reading the notes, or you so carefully.
And you got mine.
Yes.
And now we know it's not a TPP form, we know it's a TPC form. Okay. All right, with those changes, are we all ready to vote? All right. Antonellis,
Antonellis, aye.
Thomas, I.
Foster, aye. Poole, aye.
Jake's eye.
Paleo, aye. All right, and moving right along, and we are going to go to the review of the cost estimate. You want to take it away, Dominic?
Yeah, thank you, Elaine. Marianne,
Oh,
could
let
you
me
allow
make
me?
you, yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Review the cost estimate with the revised TPC, but we need TPC first.
You want the TPC first? So Dominic, Neil sent us just before the meeting, he sent me a document with the total project costs. So Neil, can you share that first?
Oh,
I just made you a co-host too.
okay. Hold on 1 second. Where am I here? Got that? Yes.
So that's your budget. Is that what you want to see, Jeff?
Do you have the budget, or do you want to see the
Do you want to see this?
estimate of ineligible costs?
Right
Okay.
now, I want to see how far with the budget.
Okay,
Okay,
So, thanks, Marianne. The budget summary that I prepared, I did the best I could with the time I had. Our OPM fee is unchanged from where we were in SD. A&E is, I believe it's the same as where we were at SD. there is obviously the increased redesign, but I think we had that incorporated last time we spoke or last time we presented the budget in August. We have adjusted, or the commissioning proposal we now have. So there's probably about $10,000 in surplus there that we're just kind of holding as a placeholder for now. But we're anticipating the commissioning budget will be in the range of 35 to 40,000 when all is said and done. For construction, we're holding the 6.2 million estimate that Dominic provided to us. I think it was yesterday. As well as we've carried a plug for what I'm calling the overage in the estimated cost of the well design and construction. This is above and beyond the $50,000 that's carried in the estimate. We can speak more to that if need be. Project expenses, FF&E, remain unchanged. Construction contingency remains at the same dollar value that it was at SD. And we are currently forecasting 8.685 million total project. Our total project budget at schematic design was 8.55. So we're roughly 135,000 over where we were at SD. Jeff, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
We get a copy of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, is this updated since the one you sent me earlier today, Neil?
This, I think, is the same budget that I sent you earlier.
Okay, then I already sent this
No,
to
you
you.
didn't.
No,
You didn't attach it. You sent the email, but no attachment.
okay. But this I would have sent earlier today. Did I not send it?
No, it says Neil's budget.
Yeah, that was a different budget.
Oh.
And then I just sent that, I forwarded that,
But that
Um,
doesn't have anything in it either.
right. Okay, all right, I'll
Did-
send. it.
Mary Ann, would you like me to go right into the eligible and ineligible estimate?
I would like.
Yes.
Okay. So this one gets a little bit fuzzier, if you will. So the dollar figures that are in black, for example, the site lighting fixture only item, is the number that was carried in the estimate. The red numbers are an attempt on my part to take out the cost that is represented in the VE summary that Odinzello provided that gets us back to the $6.2 million construction estimate. So, so if you go down through all of the items, one of the VE item was to reduce the number of lighting fixtures on the site. So the 71,150 is the number that was carried in the estimate, and the $11,400 is the number that was carried in the VE that reduces that cost accordingly. Similarly, in terms of site improvements, which is the majority of the ineligible expenses on the project, there was a VE item that reduced the pavement area in one of the parking spots, as well as converted the granite curbing to bituminous curb. So those numbers offset each other. There was a VE item within the concrete sidewalks to reduce the sidewalk quantity, as well as to change the finish surface from concrete to bituminous concrete, which again resulted in a savings. There's $21,000 in unit pavers that I believe stayed in the estimate. Drip strip around the building perimeter. Gravel shoulders for $9,500. Site seating and miscellaneous seating. This item essentially was removed from in its entirety. It was $26,500 in the estimate, and the wood bench and the concrete seat wall and reclining benches essentially credited out the site seating cost. EV charging stations or the need for those has yet to be identified either in the estimate or in the VE. The entrance sign at $10,000, the guardrail and retaining wall, again, essentially these items offset each other. So there would be no ineligible if the VE is taken. Bike racks, exterior parking and signs, relatively small, about $5,600. And then landscaping at a cost of about $292,000. So the direct cost from the estimate was $506,000 total. And again, just to reiterate, I did the best I could to incorporate the VE savings so that we weren't overestimating the dollar number that was ineligible. I noted that the markup from the GC was about 5% less than it was at schematic design, and I attribute that to the reduction in design contingency. So we applied the 23.3% on top of the direct cost from the estimate. We reduced out the FF&E, the technology, and the AV, IT, and exterior sign allowances. Estimated total of ineligible expense is $864,000 and change. So using the total project budget on the estimate, deducting out the ineligible expenses, results in an estimated eligible project cost of roughly $7.8 million. The MBLC grant is 75% of the eligible costs. So the estimated town share is about $2.8 million, slightly higher. So that number is pretty consistent. I think the number we gave you at schematic design was about 2.9 million and change. And I think the difference is related to the fact that a lot of the VE changes and a lot of the ineligible expenses are site related. And one of the principal efforts that we did through revised schematic design and again at DD was to reduce the amount of site work to the greatest extent feasible and possible. So it would make sense that the ineligible costs would actually come down as well as the estimated town share. So I think that's all I can say at this point. I'm happy to take any questions from the committee or otherwise, and I'd certainly welcome any comments from Dominic relative to his observations on the budget.
I have nothing to add at this point, Neil. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dominic.
Yeah. I've just forwarded that.
Say too that when we went to the board for the appropriation for the 75%, we had a cap of 6 million. So it's very good to see this under that cap, which means we don't have to go, hopefully won't have to go back for a further appropriation for this. So thank you.
That is good news, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hey, we're under. Barely or not, we're under. Even for $1 under, we're under.
We're 100,000. We're a lot under.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and so the town, our portion is 2.9 million.
819.
2.819, so,
2.9.
right, 2.819.
Marianne,
And-
just something I want to make sure that we're clear with the committee. This is a snapshot in time. As we get further along in the project estimates, the amount of design contingency is going to change. It's going to be reduced. The direct cost is going to increase. So I would expect to see this number, this 2.8 number, is probably going to increase somewhat incrementally as we get closer to the conclusion of the design process. It's just by a function that we're expecting the direct cost of construction to increase and the design contingency to decrease. So I'm sort of expecting this number is gonna fluctuate a little bit, and I would not advise that you take this to the bank right now. But it's, again, it's an estimate, it's a snapshot in time of where we are today.
So Neil, with your experience on something like this, then you say that we shouldn't be totally counting on this, and I understand that, but how much flexibility do you think we need to put into this? Are we talking 1%, 10%? Do you have any rough idea?
Elaine, it's hard to say at this point in time, only because if nothing changes in the scope or the cost estimate or anything else from now until we go to bid, and the numbers come in at the time of the bid and they're exactly as we expect them to be, then there shouldn't be any fluctuation. If the building cost comes in a few percent less, but the site costs come in a few percent more, right? At the end of the day, it's the same numbers, but it's going to affect what your eligible cost is. And I believe I'm looking at Andrea's head and I'm seeing a little bit of a head nod. So I think I'm on the right track, that it's all going to be based on the numbers that come in on bid day and the breakdown that we receive from the low eligible or low and responsible bidder.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
it
I
does.
wish I could be more exact, but it really isn't an exact science yet.
Yeah. So what can you refresh me, Mary Ann, on what we have?
Right, so at
Yes,
town
ma'am.
meeting, in June of 2022, we appropriated $2.4 million.
Was that
2.4.
2.4, and the Friends of the Library have miraculously raised $200,000 since then. So that gets us up to 2.6. We are pursuing a administrative process to transfer the library's trust fund. That's $74,000. I have $20,000 in grant money. So that can be applied to this project. So we can call that 100,000. It's 94, but we can call it 100. So we have $2.7 million that the town, for this project. So we're short 1.19859. So, which is not two, it's, if you really have to, we can call it 1.5, but it's even lower than 1.25. Okay.
So it's about $125,000
Right.
that we might have to.
So we can do some more value engineering if we have to. We can, we can make compromises
Yep.
on some of our choices. I've asked Dominic already to do some evaluation of cost for some of the choices that we've made. And,
But I'm a
yeah,
little confused. So there's your number,
right,
but we're still $135,000 over on PCT. Based on what you have said.
You're gonna have to talk louder so everybody can hear you.
I don't know what that meant.
So Neil said we're short he said we're short $135,000 on for cost overrun on the construction, right?
Neil, can you put your budget up again, the first budget?
Yep. Hold on.
So we're short $135,000.
I think that was the difference. Not that one, the other one. That's the current shortfall, so that, right.
125,000.
I don't think that was compared to town meeting number.
right.
No, but
That's,
No.
so that's the shortfall is if our budget is $2.5 million.
Right, if you.
That's the shortfall.
If you came
yeah.
back, if the town comes back and says, listen, we've got 8.5 million or 8.55 million, which was the number that we were projecting at schematic design. And if the town comes back and says that number is firm, then we need to come up with an additional $135,000 in project savings, whether it comes from construction or otherwise, in order to be on budget. I don't think it's insurmountable based on the VE items that we have yet to figure in to the overall budget, but we need to get there. Unless you tell me otherwise.
So Andrea, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
No, you said that we had to have all of our money in hand before we can break ground. Can you clarify that for me, please?
So technically, if you have donations still rolling in, it should be legal pledges. So pledges that have a legal binding document with them. We understand that you have successful fundraising outside of pledges with your different events and your different fundraising strategies. So essentially, for this, when you're appropriating the town share, but by the time that you get to construction, that gives you a little bit more time to try to raise a little bit more. But typically in our projects, the total amount is bonded, like if the total amount is appropriated for potential bonding, but then so they usually do like short-term notes on the projects, and then once they have closed the books, then they go for the permanent bond. So whatever grant money has been received at that point is taken off the total amount that would be bonded. So in your case, you have appropriated 2.4 million, and we're a little bit shy of that figure. But again, as Neil said, we don't know until you go out to bid what the actual cost is. Correct me if I'm misquoting you, Neil, but.
No, I actually think that we're really not going to know what that number is even when the bids are received. You won't know until after you have awarded a project and the lump sum breakdown is analyzed and the ineligible expenses are identified and pulled out of the contractor's schedule of values and tallied. So that's something that typically doesn't happen until post-award.
Yeah. So right now at the estimate phase, we've seen projects come in over, we've seen projects come under what their revised estimates have been. So it's very difficult to predict what will happen here. But right now, that there's a delta in this estimate. So, and our money to you is allocated in different fiscal years. So it's not going to come all at once when you're doing construction. So there has to be potentially a system in place so that you're able to pay those bills, those requisitions from the contractor. And then our money comes in as it's allocated under our annual cap. So I think we have to have further discussion about what that means for you as a town being able to cover some of these costs, because it won't all come during that construction.
Andrea, is it safe to say, I know that in the traditional MBLC funding model, the final 20% of the grant is not paid until post-construction, closeout is complete, final numbers are reconciled, and then the final payment is made. Is that correct?
It's correct. And the reason for that is because we don't have the actuals until you close those books.
Right.
So, and then those actuals determine that final
Payment.
payment.
Yep.
Now, if necessary, if it fits in our annual cap, we could potentially do a partial payment of that and do a holdback of a certain percentage of that final payment if it's necessary, given that this is a pilot project and it doesn't follow exactly our regular grant trajectory. But we would not release all of the funding until we had the actuals from the books being closed.
So I guess my question is revolving around the timing for us to be able to break ground according to the MLBC's requirements, excuse me, and town meeting. And if we need to go back to the town to request more money. And I'm not seeing how we fit those in together, how they mesh. Because we're talking about April, when we will have those numbers, right, Neil?
It'll be about 6 weeks after we go public with the bid. So if we're holding let's just say hypothetically an April 1 bid date, we will probably not have a final construction bid in hand until the first or second week in May.
Okay, so Neil, well, the other budget page that you use to determine the eligible and ineligible costs.
Yep.
Did you use that 8.6 number, not the 8.5?
8685. Yes, I
Right,
did.
okay, alrighty. So,
So that's kind of worst case, I think.
right, okay. So we're with my math. So I'm qualifying that, but Brad's over there, so he'll catch me. With my math, we are $125,000 short.
I've got 120, but I'm not gonna argue with you.
Okay, all right,
120.
we'll take 120,
120.
okay. Jeff goes to 200,000, so I like your numbers better than Jeff's.
Yeah.
We, how much is the furniture and technology? That's $200,000 almost, 190.
Yeah.
And we are possibly going to get grant money for some of that furniture.
Some of that, and we already have,
12,000.
right, yes, yeah.
So
And,
so
yeah.
some of the FF&E is ineligible.
Right,
Some of it is eligible, but some of
Right.
it is ineligible.
right,
So we've
Right.
provided, I think, a conservative estimate of
right,
what would be considered ineligible. Our total budget for FF&E is 125,000, of which some is new, some is repurposed.
right,
So we've said roughly
right.
half of that
right,
is going to be ineligible. We don't, honestly, Mary Ann, that's a guess. We
Right.
don't really know where that's going to stand, so we try to
Right.
take a very conservative approach now.
right. So, but in any case, we could be raising money for and pursuing grants for furnishing while we're building the building, right? So really, for that day when we have to sign, we have to be able to pay for the construction, and we're $120,000 shy for the entire project. And we have time to continue fundraising.
So, another question to Andrea. Do we have to have in hand only those costs which are eligible costs or the whole
No,
budget?
no, no.
We have to have the whole budget, so
Yeah.
so we have to have the furniture, but the furniture costs we're gonna be continuing to raise money for that.
Well,
Well, I
our,
think the
our
furniture-
regulations say the total eligible cost.
Oh,
See?
That's so that's the 2016, 2017 grant round language. But let me
yeah,
double check our,
I mean,
you're still going, so
Yeah.
when we approved this, we were still under the 2016, 2017 regulations. The 2023, 2024 regulations had not been approved yet, and that is different. That is
I
total
think for this project, Andrea, you actually wanted us to be able to fund the whole project, not necessarily the FF&E. And we're so, are we close? Yeah, yes, okay, and we're 120,000 shy, and we still have some value engineering that we can do. Right, okay, and we still have, I can raise 120,000 by the time we break ground,
What?
but not by the time we break ground,
Okay, Greg would like to insert.
okay.
So I think there's several subjects going on at the same time. One is total project current estimate. One of the things Neil keeps saying is this is an estimate.
Right,
Current estimate has us about 125. Sure, we know we can earn more. We know we're gonna keep looking for things we can save. I feel for a project this size, that's pretty good. We want to do better. But I think it's nice that it's as small and not yet reached as possible. That's one subject. I think we're doing pretty good on that. Another is the sequence of when we get paid by the state, the bits that come in and when they come in. Am I right in assuming that we have to get a bond to cover the entire project?
well, so I'll talk to Becky about that,
And then we get
Right.
paid back
right.
over time?
Yeah, I'll talk to Becky because a lot of what we appropriated is cash that we already have. So, so
So we won't need a bond for the cash portion.
right, right. So I'll talk to Becky about that and Becky will, that's the kind of thing that Becky just knows.
I think this is
yeah.
a separate issue
Right,
from the issue of how does the
Right.
budget look?
right, right, yes,
Yeah.
Right. right, right. And so like what I want to be really mindful of is that, this is an expensive project for this little town. And, but because we've been working so long to fund this project, we're in really good shape. And because the community has been so generous in their support of this project. But I just want to be, as we're making decisions during this next design phase, I want to be really mindful of this budget and I want us to do whatever we can to, to just be really practical and really economical in our decisions. And we can't cut square footage,
Without
right,
cutting costs that we are gonna be sorry for. in the
right,
future.
yes, yes. Yeah. So time for Dominic? Okay,
All right, Dominic.
you're up. He's here.
Thank
He's
you. Yeah,
listening,
I'm here.
wrapped. Yes, he's having a great time. All right, here, we don't need to look at these guys. Okay,
Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
can you make
Right.
it well, no, actually, that looks great.
Yeah. Hopefully, there we go. Is that a little bit better?
Yeah.
So I have a list here. There have been some revisions to what I showed you last week. So I'll just go through these item by item. Last week, we looked at the overhead electrical poles to serve the utility lines coming to the project. If we were to revise what we currently have, we have them going below grade in a duct bank. If we were to incorporate those into overhead poles, we would see a reduction of $73,000 and change. The caveat to this item is that we would owe a utility back charge because currently we know what it would cost to go to just get service to the property. So we are estimating at this point that 40,000 is potentially a mid-range number, but it is a bit of a stab in the dark. So with this utility back charge, that would be subtracted from the 73. So currently we're looking at around $30,000. That would be $30,000 savings. Again, this is unsure, and we are not actually including it in our calculation right now. Our electrical engineer is actually engaging the utility to find out what that is, but we don't have an estimate as to when we'll know that number.
Question, this is from Brad.
Yeah.
So you have a rough estimate because you don't know the utility back charge.
Correct.
You have a rough estimate of 33,000, but that hasn't been factored into the reductions yet.
That's correct.
Okay, so that if we did this, that would be an additional 33,000,
That's correct.
roughly.
Roughly, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
What is
So I wanted to keep it in for discussion because I think it is an item that should be considered if need be.
Jeff, you have a question?
you explain what is a utility back?
So the utility company would actually do the work to install the poles and bring the service to the transformer pad that we have at the back of the site. And so that that's a fee that they need to be compensated for. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
And they would not bring it in if we were doing underground?
Underground, they only provide at the property line, which has already been accounted for.
Okay. So this charge, if we can make it without doing this, we could have underground utility.
That's correct. And that is included in the current budget.
Okay.
I think it's preferential for us to do that. You know, it's
Sure.
it's a little unsightly, but it's something that if you know we definitely need, we are definitely advocating. If we need this money, we would, you know, it's an appropriate way to bring utilities in to the site.
Okay.
Yep. Moving on. So the next would be to remove a parking stall to the south of the site so that we could reduce the area of the turnaround. We only need 12 parking stalls to meet the requirement of the size of the library. We have an additional. If we were to omit that parking stall, we would reduce asphalt, which we would see some savings. We could then delete the traffic barrier that we currently have and a retaining wall associated with the fact that the current parking lot turnaround is very close to the property line. So we would see savings here of nearly $94,000. So this we are including as a savings strategy. The next is delete concrete sidewalk from the south of the parking lot. This sidewalk is not required by code or by ADA. Patrons are able to move from the parking lot via the actual parking lot itself to the library, and they do not need this sidewalk. So this is a simple deduct. that includes the concrete pavement and the sub base associated with that. So that's $10,000. Next item is replace granite curb with bituminous berm curb, or Cape, commonly called Cape Cod berm. That's just a material change. So from granite to the bituminous, we would see a savings of around nearly $34,000. The next item we have here is the landscape trees. This is an item that we have discussed as to see if there is potential to incorporate the tree planting scheme later down the line through the project. So during construction, potentially, we could see additional fundraising or a way to fund this. Potentially, we could incorporate this as an ad alternate in the project. We are relying on the current tree scheme as part of our Conservation Commission submission, our NOI. So this as well, we are not including in our current VE list. I think it heavily relies on our meeting with Conservation Commission to see if they are in agreement with being able to install trees at a later date for the project. It's something that we are looking to include for the project. It's just, is there an opportunity to include them at a later date?
I have a question, and this maybe isn't a dominant question, but who defines how tall a tree is?
There's a formula in the Conservation Commission regulations.
So I guess my point is, if we were to come back later and plant trees, if we plant a tree 2 foot tall, okay, or is our tree has to be 8 foot tall?
I think they have to be the size specified in the regulations, and it's this complicated formula that has to do with the trees you're taking out and what size they were, and what you put in has to compensate in a particular way. It's a bit of a nightmare to figure out. But again, Dominic, I will say that you have 3 years after the order of conditions is issued to do all the things specified in the order of conditions. So, I know there is in the new regulations, something about you have to plant the trees within
6 months.
6 months of getting the order, but we're asking for a waiver for that because 6 months we will, the site will be a mess and nobody's gonna be planting trees. So you would do that at the very end of the project. And so, I think we can install some of the trees as part of the construction project, and the rest of the trees after the construction project is closed out, and do it at a greatly reduced savings.
Our highway department can install the trees.
Well, they can, but you have gardeners that have installed.
Right.
Right.
But I think it's all over town.
And one question that I have with this, does the condition of the trees that we're taking out come into consideration? Because a lot of those trees were in very, very rough shape.
We made a plea for that.
We did. We included that in the NOI.
Okay,
Yes,
that's in the NOI.
yes.
It
Yeah,
will be interesting to see, because the commission's never, this is the first project that has come before them using these new regulations, so a lot of things are gonna be sorted out with this project.
And that's next Thursday night.
that we begin the
Well,
hearing,
that-
yes.
Yes, it will,
Yes,
it will,
yeah.
it will go on for, I don't know how long.
Yeah.
Several meetings, I guess.
Okay.
May we know who's speaking?
What?
What do you say?
May we know who is speaking? The Marianne little square here on my Zoom does not show the names of the people speaking. Thank you.
Sorry, that was Penny. Penny Jakes, who was a longtime chair of the Conservation Commission, and so she is really spearheading the NOI.
Well, a highly trained professional spearheaded the NOI.
Well, yes, highly trained professional, but from our committee,
Yes.
it's Penny Jakes. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the entry porch wood slat bench.
Yeah, thank you, Elaine. So this is a simple deduct. It's a bench condition that we have at the entry porch. You know, and talking to the group, this is something that could be managed after the construction of the project. So it's a simple deduct of nearly $10,000. The next item is to remove the wood siding within the vestibule. So we have maple shiplap siding on both walls of the interior vestibule. We would replace that with drywall. So it's a simple deduct of $5,000. The next item relates to the drywall throughout the project. We have cost for level 5 finish, which is the highest level of finish that you can specify. And we feel it's appropriate to drop that down a level to level 4, and that is appropriate for this project. Level 5 is you know, the best you can get, museum grade finish. We don't have large expanses of drywall. So we think it's appropriate to drop that level to level 4. That sees over $15,000 in savings. Then Neil had mentioned this in his ineligible costs, that we targeted the site light poles. There were 5 that spanned along the entry drive that we do not need by code. So all the associated assembly with those poles summed up here, that's about $18,000 savings. The next item is the condensing unit refrigerant lines. So the HVAC system has condensing units on the exterior of the building, and the refrigerant lines for that in the current estimate are buried in a conduit below grade and then entering the building under the slab. We propose that this refrigerant line would go along the building to the electrical room and then enter the building that way. That sees savings of over $42,000 if we do that.
Question, Dominic.
Yeah.
So with that, is there gonna be some additional cost? Because I remember it might have been the last meeting where we discussed a little bit about how they would be surface mounted. We were talking about possibly using some wood that would be just under the eave, and then there's the attachment. So there, an added cost, not 42.9 obviously, but to surface mount that on the exterior.
Yes. So I did propose an initial thought at the last meeting where we would carry those lines up to the roof eave and around to the electrical room. We are considering other options. One is whether we need the second egress door to the meeting room, and whether we could convert that to a small window and allow these refrigerant lines to go below that. Keep all of the piping, the refrigerant lines low, minimize, the extent at which they need to go up and around the doorway currently. So yes, to your question, I think there would be some sort of reduction to this 42,900. But what that is exactly right now is unknown, and we're hoping to do that as efficiently as we can. So That, to your point, there is a caveat to that number. And we don't know yet, so we're hoping we can do that as efficiently as possible.
So when will you know about whether we need that extra egress?
I'm hoping to find that out as soon as possible.
Okay,
It's a phone call to the code.
okay, okay.
So Dominic, at some point, will you give us, some sort of, visual of what this will look like on that end of the building
Yes,
with all the ducts and all the
yes.
fencing units and all, just so we really can see it?
Yes, absolutely. So we discussed it at the last meeting. The condensing units are to the exterior, the south of the building. We are considering this somewhat as the back of house side of the building currently. You know, the fact that we do have these condensing units. We have plantings around that area. Having these refrigerant lines would not be our first choice, but the fact that it is happening at that side of the building, we don't think is a huge detractor to the building or the project, but it will be visible. And so something that, yes, needs to be considered, and I will give you some supplemental information just to better indicate what that might look like.
Thank you.
Yep. The next item was replace the concrete sidewalks with bituminous paving. So currently we have ADA sidewalks from the parking lot that enter the building and then also surround the building to 3 additional entry points to the building. If we substitute most of that to bituminous paving, we would see savings of around $10,000. Our landscape architect recommended that the sidewalks directly between the parking lot and the building should be kept as concrete. But there's considered secondary sidewalks that then get you around the building, south, north, and to the west, could be substituted to this bituminous. So we're looking at 10,000 for that line item. The next is granite site benches. We could hold as a deduct alt. So we have 3 granite reclaimed benches. They're basically a site bench. Our estimate carried a concrete seat wall as well. That should not be accounted for. So we're seeing savings here of $16,500. So the idea here would be we wait till bid day, see where the numbers come in, and we could potentially add this back into the project, or if the library decides you could handle the site benches in a different way at a later date. The next item was
I think my recommendation was don't even take it off. I would just get rid of it.
Take it right out.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have enough other alternates. We don't want to do that alternate fees this one.
Yep.
What it's worth.
Did you hear that, Dominic?
Sorry, that was Jeff speaking, is that right?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah, sorry, Jeff. Something about you'd like to take it out completely?
That'd be my recommendation. I don't think it's worth the alternate. I mean, I can't believe we're gonna put in random benches, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
There does be some sort of exterior seating.
He's building benches like crazy.
No idea, but yeah, I guess so.
Okay,
We're gonna have a workshop and we'll all build benches.
so I don't understand the difference between removing this as an add alt.
So-
Being it
Last
as an add alt.
contractor, what is the cost that he would charge you for doing that? So
for
here's-
doing adults. I don't know, Neil, you might have a better sense of the amount that you can include. I know that on bid day, you need to submit ad alternates in order. And once the bids, as I understand it, once the bids come in, you can either accept or reject them. But they need to be done in order. Is that correct, Neil?
That's true.
I think-
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, and there's no limit, correct? There's not really a cost to the project to have. I've never kind of broached that question as to.
So there's, the answer, Dominic, is no, there's no limit.
Yeah,
But practically speaking, you want to limit the number of alternates that are in a
Right.
project. You know, 2, 3, 4 alternates, anything more than that, it becomes very difficult to manage. And I would further advise that the best alternate is something that is really self-contained, all within itself, for ease of the architect as well as discernibility of the bidder. We want to make sure that it's a readily identifiable, easy to isolate element of the project that can easily be added or deducted into or from the project.
right. So the next item was there was a double dip on plywood for the exterior wall.
What's that mean?
What does that mean?
So in our exterior wall assembly, we call out a single layer of 1/2-inch plywood sheathing. And this was accounted for again in the slate siding. And so there's an addition to the budget that we picked up that was a double dip of the same material. So this
So
sees,
nothing has changed, we just had counted.
You just
twice.
counted it twice.
that's right.
We're putting the firm?
It was spurring with 1/2-inch plywood,
Okay,
and that was underneath the slate siding, are you saying?
Yes,
Okay, and so you counted it twice.
that's right.
Got it.
Oh, I see.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I see.
take that one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 12,000 for that one.
Yeah,
Why is that yellow?
Oh, yes, sorry. I meant to preempt this discussion that there are a couple of items here on the exact value of what those are, and we're still working through that. So there are only 3 items here that we have, 2 that we're including in this number. So back to the concrete sidewalks and bituminous paving, we have a conservative estimate that by substituting to bituminous paving, it's $5 a square foot compared to the $12 per square foot for concrete sidewalks. And similarly on the plywood. So these were picked up late to get this list to you today. And we're still getting confirmation that these estimates are in fact those numbers. So we may see a little bit of wiggle on these numbers depending on our conservative estimate.
Okay.
Yep. Apologies, I should have, I didn't remember that until we come down here to this portion of the list. That's what I highlighted here. And yep, so the 10,000 and the 12,000, we may see a little bit of either positive or negative movement there. The next item is revise the ceiling in circulation and browsing from perf gyp to acoustic ceiling tile. So this will still perform acoustically. I think it's not as clean a finish but we know we need access panels in this ceiling to mechanical equipment. So this can be a favorable decision in the sense that it makes it a little easier to detail that ceiling as far as access panels. And so to make that switch is over $6,000. And then the last item, which we are still waiting for confirmation on, is to swap the tile on the project, which is in the main circulation space and bathrooms, to retroplate concrete. So retroplating concrete.
What's retroplate on?
So what we're trying to achieve with this item is that you leave the structural concrete slab exposed, and then you grind it down to reveal the aggregate. And then you seal it, and you leave that as the final finish.
Sounds awfully ugly.
It's a look that we're on board with. We actually like it in certain applications, and we think it's
I like
appropriate
it.
here.
Have you seen it?
So the lobby in Irving is this.
I would need to see that before getting on board.
Yeah. Well, you can go look. You can
Okay.
go
Yeah.
look. Andrea has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Andrea.
Double check, because we've seen this in a couple of different libraries and we've seen a lot of cracking with it.
Yeah, I was
It
just going to
just-
say, Andrea, the instance here is definitely a cost savings measure where we would retroplate the structural slab and we could pretty much guarantee there would be cracking. But you seal it.
Wait, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, 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 whoa,
Yeah,
whoa, wait.
yeah, no, there would be cracking. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
you seal the cracks.
yeah,
So you see them, but they're sealed.
yeah.
Normally, when you do a high grade finish of retroplate, you actually install a sub concrete layer on top of the structural slab. So you don't rely on the structural slab, which inevitably sees cracks in it. So you depress that, then you lay another layer of concrete with potentially a different aggregate. You grind that down, seal it, and then that you can control a lot more as far as visible cracks.
Then you don't have the cost saving.
What rooms are you proposing this in?
This is the main circulation space, the lobby, the browsing circulation, and then the bathrooms, the restrooms. So we are not including this
My
number.
idea. Yeah. Oh, they're sticking their tongues out at me, Dominic. One thumb down and a tongue out at me. So, yeah,
When
yeah.
I saw that you had mentioned this in some message and I
Yeah.
didn't quite know what it meant, but I do now.
Yeah,
I wondered if rather than doing that, we could have less fancy lights in that area. Because I remember Dominic had talked about putting decorative lights there and whether that might save some money too.
I'm sorry, Penny, I didn't quite get that. What?
The chandelier.
You had talked
Oh,
about
the lights. I thought you were, yeah, got it.
decorative lights, and I'd like to see what the cost for that is, because I'd rather personally have tile and no decorative lights.
I agree, because decorative lights we could put in at a later date if we wanted to.
And we probably won't.
That is one area we have not targeted yet, and we do own one decorative fixture in the lobby space as a feature. We can include that in the list. Generally, though, our light package was, was very budget conscious too. So, but a decorative feature is what it is. So if that's the target line, we can definitely roll that in as well.
Do I see any not in agreement?
I agree. Probably a little bit. I have it on my list.
Brad,
So, Dominic, we have these items, I counted up how many and then I forgot. And some of them you haven't included in the total, the red total. for reasons that made sense to me at the moment. And it sounded like from what Neil was saying, that we ought to select the ones of these that were the most important to us to have as adults. No?
No.
I think
Oh.
the intent would be to approve these VE items that are listed.
Just to approve them for removal.
Correct.
Yes. Thank you. I
Yeah.
wanted to know process.
Yeah.
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 So I would like to see, and so we don't have a dollar figure attached to that swap tile for retroplate.
Yeah.
I would like to see that dollar figure, you
Yeah.
know, at an upcoming meeting. And then I would like to find some examples of this. I think the Home Depot floor is,
Not very warm and welcoming.
yeah, but it's kind of pretty, and slate gray colored tile is not warm and welcoming to me either. And that cost $36,000.
But you have to, but you don't know what the cost of the swap is.
Right, but I think it's gonna,
Yeah.
but so anyway, so Dominic's gonna find the price of the swap for us.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna, and you'll go to Urban, okay,
And I
All right.
definitely want to know that.
And I'll go to Irving and Home Depot.
okay, and for us.
Student union,
Yeah,
we did, right, we didn't call it record, so we called it.
and
Wow, it's fine.
how does it work?
Well, we did a little bit different, because we had a structural slab, and then we came back with a topping of about an inch and a half, and we ground it up.
And did you do that as a savings measure or as a stylistic measure? Do you
It's-
think it'll save
hardware.
significant money over time? Do you think it will save money over time?
I don't know, because it's not cheap, it's very limited,
Yeah.
so I'm not convinced this is gonna be cost saving.
Okay,
So.
well, let them price it out and, yeah, and let's look at it, okay.
And definitely, I want to see the pricing out of the overhead poles, because just,
Right,
I really would like to see us have them not be overhead poles if we don't have to.
I would agree. We're all.
Yeah, okay,
okay.
okay. Just want to underline that.
going to stay underground.
Stay underground is if we possibly.
So Dominic, can we talk a little bit just for a minute about underground? Are there any other potential costs that, because of the length of the conduit, that haven't been considered?
We have it in our neighborhood.
You're saying that the number that we have in the current estimate for
Right.
the conduit below grade, is there an
Right.
unforeseen?
Right, because
No.
of the size of the project?
No,
No.
as
Okay,
I understand it, no. From our cost estimator, no. Yeah.
okay,
So Dominic, not to intercede, but I think it is unlikely, in my opinion and experience, that we can do a 500-foot pull on primary cabling without at least one intermittent manhole to provide a pull station and a way to access that line midstream. I don't know that for sure, and I don't know what the electrical code says. But I don't think that we can pull it 500 feet without having a manhole in the middle. And that's not in the estimate, but it should be something that the electrical engineer can better advise on.
Yep. That's a good point, Neil. And I'll ask that question.
And the duct bank would be electrical, tell data? Be everything, right?
Yeah, electrical and tel data, yep.
So the savings that you've identified here, is that, Neil, is this the number that you then used in your going back to the TPC? So is this, after all this, are we still in 125,000 short?
Yes.
Okay.
So we carried the estimated cost of construction at 6.21 million. So the assumption that we made is that the entire VE would be accepted by the town. And we made the adjustment in the budget for the estimated cost of construction, and we made the reduction on the ineligible expenses consistent with the numbers that were carried here. So if there are elements of this that the town does not wish to adopt, then we need to go back in and revisit both the standing of the budget as well as the ineligibles right now.
But the only two that we're really talking about is the overhead electricity and the swapping the tile for retrofit.
But neither one of those numbers were
Right,
figured into the neither one of them are figured into the ineligible,
right.
and neither one of them are figured into the VE. So they don't really matter at this point, Elaine, not to be cavalier,
No,
but
I understand.
they're not figured in the numbers either way.
I understand. Thank you.
And I'd also like to add, I did not include in this list things like the Library of Things millwork,
Right.
which was priced at $25,000, and we've had discussions already with Mary Ann, and we are already working towards how we could reduce.
We're gonna cut it. We're not cutting it, we're making it more economical.
That's right.
Yes.
Hey, Dominic, can we talk about the employer? I'm not a fan of the employer. Are there options, and you have a rough idea what the cost might be?
For the Akoya siding,
Yeah. I investigated it, as I told you guys a long time ago, I came away more unhappy with it than happy with it.
Do you have an alternative suggestion?
Well, the yellow cedar that they're using on the rest of the building. Same of the other wood that they're using.
which I think, Jeff, is a applicable option. I think our holistic motivation and intent for the exterior material selections was life cycle costs and durability and maintenance.
I remember that. I appreciate that.
Yep.
But I also look at your design, and the wood siding isn't going down to the grade. It's still held up about 18 inches or 2 feet above grade.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to see a lot of water splash base. And, as I pointed out to you guys before, they don't even make that product in the United States. It's got to come in from England. Me, at $45 a square foot just seems a little bit tall for siding, and we go with this wood. What kind of savings is that?
I don't have that. I don't think we did an adult on this estimate. We can look through what those savings are based on the SD estimate, and we'll evaluate that.
So you mean the first schematic design estimate when you say SD estimate?
That's right.
Okay.
It was either that one or the redesign.
Okay. So in this one, in this current estimate, we have, there's horizontal yellow cedar. So you're using that in places like up, is that up? It's on page 7, I think.
I think that's just the soffits, Mary Ann.
That's just the soffits. And then
Yeah.
the Akoya is on page 9. and it's $48,000. And the
Yep.
slate's on page 7, I think, and that's $80,000. And so, but I didn't see anything else in this estimate about siding.
Then we have the concrete face insulation, which is
Right,
also the
right.
water table. Yeah.
Right, yes, but we're not gonna put that instead of the Akoya.
That's
So,
a
right.
yeah, very cost effective way to handle that condition.
right. So we could look back at that first cost estimate for pricing on wood siding instead of the Akoya siding? Or can you price that out sometime in the next, as we're doing construction documents?
That is a part of our life cycle analysis that we're
Okay,
working on,
okay,
all the exterior finishes.
okay, terrific, good. So then we would have a cost per square foot on the Akoya, the slate, cedar clapboards and hardy plank.
The non-Akoya.
But, well, we already have it on Akoya.
No, I mean, no,
Yeah.
I agree with Jeff. I find the Akoya is not acceptable.
Okay,
So,
All right.
So we have to find a price on a non-Akoya.
okay. So are you saying that you don't want the chemically or the thermally modified wood and you just want a wood product?
Probably, some
Okay.
cedar.
Okay,
So I do
Also-
recall Dominic saying that the advantage of the Akoya is you don't have to, do maintenance on it in the same sort of way.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's any advantage to it.
And you do have to, if you read all,
Yeah.
you gotta really dig down and open up every.
if we want it to look like it looks.
Yeah,
Yeah, so what did Steven say about it?
well, he would be the person that.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
there's no such thing as a
Right.
maintenance-free wood, anything.
Right,
You
oh,
know-
right,
You know,
Steven, right.
Stephen Smolsky.
Yes, Stephen Smolsky, yes, okay. Okay, and then one thing you've mentioned about the Akoya is that when the contractor is selecting materials, that they have to be able to consider 3 products. We can't say, pick the Akoya brand and that there aren't similar products on the market or comparable products on the market.
I did not find any comparable products to the Akoya. I think even the architects made a statement early on, right?
Mhm,
that claim.
right,
So I don't think.
Right.
I think we can get a challenge on that just right off the gate.
okay. All right, but in any case, you're not a fan of it. Do you know Steve Smolsky? Yeah. Okay.
This is insane.
He's a wood scientist.
Ah.
Yeah, so I think I did ask him about it, but I can ask him again. But in any case, what I would really like to know is the price of cedar clapboards instead. So that we can, make a comparison. Yeah. Weren't we gonna use Akoya clapboards?
No.
Oh, vertical, all right, well, so whatever those are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cedar boards.
Cedar boards,
Of the
okay,
pine boards.
Okay.
Akoya is.
okay,
Okay, so
All
cedar
right.
replaces pine.
okay,
I think it would be a shiplap that we would install vertically, yeah,
okay,
or
right.
tongue and groove potentially.
okay, all right,
Same.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Are we considering an alternative to the slate siding as well, or just the Akoya?
in the life cycle analysis, we're considering an alternative to the slate
And
siding.
what is that? What is the?
So the MBLC wants us to, so one of the goals of the small library pilot project is that it be an economical project.
Mhm.
And so the MBLC wants us, and I think this makes sense for us to do too. So we want to evaluate the upfront cost of products and the life cycle cost of products so that we're making informed economical decisions about this project.
And we're
So-
considering the long-term.
Right.
durability
Well,
of
so
the
those,
site.
and those are things we would, right,
Mhm.
that's right. So we would, and then we can make decisions and we can say, okay, this product, like a standing seam metal roof, might perform better than an asphalt roof, even though it costs 25% more. I'm making that number up. And so
Right.
it, and it will be, an extra 15 years before that roof needs any kind of maintenance. So it's gonna save us money in the long run, even though it costs more upfront. So we want to just make informed decisions about those things. And so we want to see it all on a piece of paper.
And that process is happening right
Yeah,
now. And what
yes.
is it called again?
A life cycle analysis, cost analysis. Does that sound about right? We're making this.
That's right,
Yeah,
Marianne. Yeah.
okay.
Okay.
Dominic is doing that.
Have you
'Cause I-
done this before, Dominic?
I'm sorry, Penny?
Have you done this before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. It involves, a bunch of our consultants as well.
Uh-huh.
So, for instance, and I don't have this ready for you today, but I will provide to the committee. We did have an ad alternate for 5-inch, 7-inch roof insulation. We priced out 5-inch roof insulation. There was an ad alternate for 7-inch roof insulation. And we had our mechanical engineers do an energy model to evaluate the energy savings, the cost savings by increasing the roof insulation. So it turns out that there is minimal cost benefits to increasing your roof insulation to then save with your mechanical equipment. So that, for instance, is a life cycle analysis. And I will share with you what we get from them, but we have it from them that it's not a cost benefit considering a life cycle analysis to pay upfront, pay more for the increase in roof insulation to go to 7-inch. Over the course of a year, you don't see, a buyback, and then the evaluation is over time. So that's one instance. With the roof, again, as Marianne mentioned, we want to use a standing seam roof. The alternative is to use asphalt shingles. The standing seam roof, the metal standing seam roof has a superior connection detail for the photovoltaic panels. And so first of all, there's an exterior envelope consideration there that you're not penetrating asphalt shingles to attach photovoltaic cells on the roof. There's always risk involved with the more penetrations you make through your substrate. But then also at some point, a roof needs to be replaced and those photovoltaic cell panels need to come off the roof. And so there's we expect there is a marketable increase in price to remove those PV cells and put them back on an asphalt roof when compared to doing the same with a metal standing seam roof. So there's many factors involved, maintenance being another, into each element of the exterior envelope. Same reason why we chose slate shingles that has a 50-year warranty compared to other siding, right? So you don't need to replace it in 50 years, if not more. It could definitely stay on the building longer than 50 years. It's just warranted to 50. You consider that over 50 to 100 years of, what it would cost the building if it was an alternative product. So we're doing that so that you can make an educated decision on upfront cost versus life cycle cost.
Right. So one other question I had, Dominic, last week, Jeff raised a question about the roof because the roof is standing seam metal until you get close to the edge and then it
Yep.
changes to flat seam.
Yep.
And I think you've designed it that way for aesthetic reasons. And correct me if it's more than just aesthetic reasons. And Jeff asked if there could be a cost savings by changing it all to standing seam metal instead of just changing. And I wonder if you've done any analysis of that.
But it's currently underway and I didn't include it here. Yeah. We looked at the numbers again. There's potential that there's savings, but we needed to get further input from our cost estimator on that. To Jeff's point, I think we would simplify the flat seam roof detail and the flashing and coping in that zone. We would be buying back additional roof insulation. It may be, kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other kind of situation. But yeah, we are definitely looking at that item as well.
Okay.
Yep.
So are we about $100,000 off that?
120.
No, well, I'm assuming that
Okay,
with Recoya will make some money.
right. I mean, the Akoya is very expensive, so,
So do we need to find like $100,000?
mhm.
Of cutting or money raising?
Or a combination of the two. So, we cut that chandelier. I think you had like $36,000 budgeted for that chandelier, Dominic. So.
I didn't, look at those numbers, so
All right.
I won't respond.
Okay. I'm
My
kidding.
my
You know what? I
sense is
saw one. There was one free at the edge of the road on Montague Road. I should have picked it up the other day.
Did you have a sticker that said library?
And I wish I picked it up. I went there. I wish I went and got a dog gate, and I wish I should have took the chandelier.
It might still be there.
It might still be there. It probably is. So yeah. So we're about $100,000 off. I do think that that we do have places where we could, if we get. I mean, we're $100,000 off. It's an estimate. There is the potential that, so Dominic, we do another cost estimate about 3/4 of the way through construction documents.
yeah,
that-
60%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so we need to do, my opinion is that we need to do our best to control costs and find ways to cut costs so that when we get to that next estimate, we're not kind of surprised and scrambling again. So I think we should be cutting costs or considering ways that we might cut costs and also doing fundraising, and then realizing that 100,000 doesn't prevent us from being able to sign a contract with a contractor, because that's almost that's basically our furniture and equipment budget, which we could then be fundraising for after the fact. Dale's gonna build all the furniture. Yeah.
No, we're going above.
Okay. So I feel like we're on budget as long as, like last time you said, as long as we control ourselves and they control themselves.
We control ourselves. I'm kind of sitting here saying, so what else do you think you're going to cut between now and?
Yeah, there's not a lot, there's not a lot. of
Okay,
stuff.
but we have a year and a half to continue fundraising.
Right.
And we raised $132,000 in the last year.
It's not cut. Masking.
Right. So what else would we cut? So
Chandelier.
the chandelier, we don't put all the trees in at once, and we put them in over a course of 3 years, and the highway department puts them in, and we don't pay the contractor. So that 100 and something thousand is 60,000. So there's 60,000 right there.
Right? It's a big one.
So Dominic, how much would you save if you took the extra door out of the community room?
Well, that's a $40,000.
That I have to investigate more. I think the intent to do that is to simplify and see as little kind of additional cost to get those refrigerant lines into the building.
So, yeah.
Keep them low so
Yeah.
you don't see them.
Yes,
And you know, they could be disguised with the plantings around there.
That's a four.
I mean,
But-
there's that one area where we're hanging on to the concrete sidewalk. Why couldn't that be the other kind of sidewalk?
Bituminous.
Bituminous, if we had to be, you know.
Yeah, it was working with our landscape architect who,
I know.
you know,
What do you say?
keeping something in there. It's,
Beautiful building, that's all.
What is?
I think the concern from them is
Versus.
with public work, what standard do you get that pavement, that bituminous pavement? And if that's the main pavement that you see, I'm just bringing up.
And you wanna stop sharing your screen?
No, he's gonna show us.
Oh, it's gonna show
Yeah.
us something else, okay.
Bituminous.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we could put in carpeting instead of resilient flooring in the areas where we have carpeting is like $1.50 a foot, and the resilient flooring is $5 a foot.
But it's only, well, I wouldn't do that in the community.
Yeah, I would say, I wouldn't recommend sacrificing quality, you know, I mean, I think we want to maintain as much quality as we can. Quantity is something that we've been working on. But,
Right,
quality pays more.
right.
Hey, Dominic, I think you're gonna answer, I know you're gonna answer this one. I look at those wall sections and there's just a lot of furring going on to hold up that slate, even to hold up the foyer. And I'm wondering, couldn't a product like rain slicker be used instead of all that furring? We'd still get ventilation, but you're saving a lot of wood.
Yeah,
You ever
We-
review that with your envelope guys?
yeah, we've looked at that with, we've been consulting with Vermont Slate, who has, you know, we've coordinated with on a few projects about how to detail that slate best. And the biggest issue is that we need substantial wood to nail into. And
Think of the rain slicker, because it's only 3/8 of an inch thick. You're gonna nail into your plywood anyways.
well,
Sidewall half inch might not be enough for that.
no, a half inch is not enough. We need the 1.5 inch. I'm just trying to think through our detail because we have the Z-furring holding up the,
So, in the value, the ultimate site is gonna be hard to find, is that what you started to say?
Well, so I've asked them to price out hardy plank, cedar clapboards, and then they want, and Matt suggested cedar shingles. But so am I understanding that that the subsurface, and I'm making up words to go by what I understand, for the slate has to be more substantial? And
yeah,
then my question too is the slate more labor intensive to put up? So does it cost more to install the slate?
Fair.
it depends on what the comparison is. Yeah.
Right,
Well, the
Yeah.
hardy plank will go a lot faster.
right,
Because it's clad inside.
Right.
And 12 feet back.
right,
It's like this way.
right.
Right, but it's a.
And so
product-
that's why we're doing
it's-
this,
it's-
right, yeah,
I mean, the aesthetics of the slate is gonna far exceed anything you're gonna put on.
Right.
Right.
right,
And the durability will.
right,
Well, the hardy plank is a very durable product. I mean, I've got stuff on that's now 25 years old, looks like the one on yesterday. So it'll last 50 years.
But the slate will last 100.
Oh, no, yeah, and I'm sure Hardy Point will either, but no, the slate's got a much nicer aesthetic value. I mean,
So anyway, we have time to really, to have a full exploration of these numbers and to continue to evaluate the project. The other thing that we've talked about way in the beginning, and we haven't talked about in a long time, but way in the beginning of the project, we talked about having the building be solar ready and having the panels be an alternate. So, and the cost of the panels installed, Dominic, I'm gonna sort of make a guesstimate, it's about $200,000.
Yeah, plus.
Yeah, and,
But that's an eligible cost.
it is an eligible cost,
And why
but,
did we take that out? The benefit of that immediately.
Absolutely not.
right,
I'm not taking that out.
okay. All right, well, I'm just saying that if we run into issues, then we have to have things in our pocket so that we can build the building.
I think that's not something we wanna put in our pocket. I think that's. Yeah, that's a foolish thing.
Well, and, there's the immediate problem of time paying for your electric.
Right,
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Because
you know about that.
You're not gonna get
Yeah,
those,
that's not a viable strategy.
right, you're not gonna get those
No,
cells that are on the roof
No,
right away.
you said it, you spoke it, it got voted down. Okay.
Okay, well, I'm just, okay,
That's it.
Don't bring it
So-
up. Yeah.
Quickly, just to help change the subject then, Penny, back to your point. Penny, back to your point
Good
about the
job.
meeting room door. We would like to switch that out to a window. I think it would be great to have a window there. And then again, that's your decision whether we do or don't. If by code we don't need that door, it would be nice.
End wall of the.
Door on the south end.
Yeah.
Right.
And how much of a savings that gonna give us?
I don't have that off the top of my head right now. So
Also, Dominic, if you did that, could you also move the condensers to the other side of the building so the conduit doesn't need to be as long?
I think any other location would be more visible,
Okay.
is the way that
Yeah,
we
here's
see it.
The best place to hide.
Sure.
Well, I was thinking not on the south end, but on the
West side.
east side of the south end rather than the west side of the south end.
I
Oh,
think
in this
beyond
corner?
the whole
I
side
think
of
that
it.
would be worse, in my mind. And
Yeah,
there's not as
because
much.
see it from the driveway.
From the parking lot. okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like,
Put it exactly where you have it,
yeah, here.
Yeah. and then we're gonna put little fencing around it, and we're gonna plant, and nobody's gonna see
You
it.
have to have 18-inch clearance.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
Dominic, can I ask you a question before you change that screen? What's
Sorry, elevations or plan?
the plan?
Yeah.
It's related to the unit pavers
Yeah.
at some of the entrances. Is
Yeah.
there, what's the magic for the unit pavers? It seems like it has a much higher square foot cost than even concrete sidewalk, as opposed to, and certainly more expensive than bituminous. So is there a reason why we're hanging on to those other than aesthetics? I mean, it's $20,000
Mhm,
of kind of respectfully of low hanging fruit.
mhm.
unit papers.
Where are
Is
those?
that
So
brick?
that's here
Yeah.
and here,
What if
and we
you,
have a,
what if you just did it in the front and not in the back?
We got rid of the two sides in the back.
Well, concrete paper. Okay.
yeah, so this is our markup for landscape
Okay.
changes. So,
Oh, wondering.
Right, so that's unit pavers back there beyond that back door.
these two,
So
yeah.
couldn't that just be, would it be less expensive if it was just concrete?
Make an asphalt because then we're.
No.
Everything in green is what?
Yeah.
Is, yeah, yeah.
We had talked one point about doing those named bricks.
Yeah, but in the front.
We could do them in the front.
You could do
Yeah,
the
I
main
wouldn't do
bricks
them
in the
anymore.
front and do.
If we're gonna
asphalt.
do named bricks, we really gotta get on that. Cause, well, I guess we buy them all and then you can buy the bricks and have the names engraved after the fact,
And
that's
they had something
expensive.
to say.
right?
I just had a question about, so the pavers, because sometimes they require you to have pervious pavers
Yeah.
around, so you might not be able to change it out to another surface that may not allow for that.
I think that's another item we want to try.
Yeah, it's a good question, Andrea.
I agree on it.
Pavers out the front, but not out the back, are you saying?
Yeah, I was there with the ones in the back, and it's one of them.
I'm trying to think, Andrea, whether that's a lead requirement that we may not need to meet here.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, but yeah, I do need to confirm that. So let me raise that with the landscape architect as another potential. Neil, I think there's room there.
The other suggestion, Dominic, which I know you're looking at, is to eliminate the acoustic drywall in favor of other acoustic treatments that will achieve the same performance. And I know I certainly don't want to speak for the MBLC, but there were questions, I think, on the performance of that product on other projects, which have come back somewhat unfavorably. So I'm just not sure that if, I guess the other concern that I have is if this requires a level of expertise to install that may not be present in the greater Shutesbury area in order to do it right, then I think we should seriously consider not inviting a headache that we can avoid.
You raise good points, and so to the difficulties we've seen in certain spaces previously, we installed perforated gyp in that location. This is acoustic drywall, not perforated, and it has a simpler assembly as well. It's direct,
and it's more than double the cost.
Yeah, material. And yes, I agree. We are investigating an alternative here.
I realize that it's not a full swap. We do have to do some acoustic treatment, but fabric wrap panels are very effective and I think much less expensive than what we're looking at. Plus, we have all of the baffles in the ceilings that are presumably remaining within the scope of the job. So I think there's some work that we can do there.
I agree. I think there is potential there. We're still working on that one. I know that from our acoustic consultants, we're very close to meeting the requirements for sound absorption. So we couldn't just cut scope by half here. But as you say, alternatives, I should say, for acoustic treatment, we are investigating.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, were you gonna say something, Dominic? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a sense from the committee, your comfortability on releasing us into CDs today.
Yeah.
We are feeling the crunch a little bit. We have been absorbing, we're already underway with CDs currently in our office, but we are not with our consultants. And we need to start that process knowing that we've, reduced the time that we've allotted for CDs, understanding where we were with DD and the delays that happened there. We took some time out of our CD schedule. We're already working in our office for architectural detailing, so we have a jump there. But I wanted to get a sense from the committee where we stand with the budget and your comfortability of releasing us into CDs with where we stand and what Neil had presented for budget. I guess that what's unclear is that there's additional VE going on. or there is an investigation for numbers, and the you know, by my numbers, I'm over by $10,000 of the 6.2. And for your project budget, you need an additional 120,000.
Correct.
And
Yeah,
we
I would-
don't know.
I would argue that there's only one budget, and it's the total budget.
Yep.
And it should be within the parameters that were established by the town at the end of SD. And we're not there yet. I think there's a pathway there. And what I would expect is that if we continue the VE effort, that the town is not asked to entertain additional cost to incorporate those VE efforts as we're moving forward. To be somewhat direct.
Right.
And
So
I appreciate that your ball is already rolling down the hill. I get that.
that's right.
I'm understanding of that completely.
Right. So we completed DD with the understanding that the 6.2 million was our construction budget. That's not good enough for the project, as we find out now, right? Or as of last week was the first that we heard of that. So
Because some things were left out.
Well, something was left out.
Yeah.
So here we are, it's almost 9:00. And I think we're very close. I think we can continue to work on value engineering. And we can continue to work on fundraising. And we can continue to move forward. I mean, I think we want to keep the ball rolling because time is money.
You want to make a
Right.
motion?
I would like to make a motion that should I say that we release you, Dominic, to go into construction documents? Is that
that is, but what
Okay.
is our construction budget number for CDs? It's not 6.2 anymore. Correct? So what is that number? Right, that's we
So, right. Right. We're not gonna answer that question?
right. You're not ready. I just want to
Well, we don't.
I just want to be clear that we are running up against when we need to start coordinating with our consultants. And
But what we need are those final numbers
yeah, I understood.
for cutting so that we know you can go ahead.
That's right. So it's a catch-22.
Right.
But
I respectfully, I think the committee needs to elect or not to move forward with the VE items that are on the table. And I think that with that, if that number goes north, if there are items on the VE list currently that are not acceptable, those need to be identified right away, and we need to make alternative arrangements to get back on budget. I don't want to understate the work that Dominic and Odinzello have done to date to get us closer, but I also can't understate to the town that right now, by my calcs, we're not there yet.
Okay, so let me clearly ask the committee, are we good with all of these recommendations in red in Dominic's document that he has gone through?
Can we look at it one more time?
Can you put the whole thing
It's
up?
right
Dawn?
there.
yeah, I'll need to zoom out, I guess, or do we go through them again?
Just a little bit.
So are the light poles on there or not?
No,
Yeah.
the light poles are not on there
The trees are not
and
on
the
there?
trees are not on there.
Okay.
Sorry, to be clear, utility. overhead poles.
Right.
Yes,
The light
Yes.
poles are.
right,
Right,
yep.
right,
So I'm
And-
okay with that.
Swapping out the tile for the retro plate is not on there.
right.
That's right.
Oh, I'm getting the side eye over here, Dominic. So,
That-
okay.
We'll find a solution.
I don't know.
Okay, so with that in mind, everything that's in red, are we all good with as those changes?
Yes.
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 Molly? I know you're there.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so
Do we have to really vote?
All right, so I make a motion that we accept the proposed BE as outlined in this document.
and I will second that.
Antonellis, aye.
Any more discussion? Antonellis, I, Thomas, I, Foster, I,
Why?
Jake's side.
Moss,
Moss eye.
and Paleo, I. All right, we have those are accepted, but we need more.
Right.
Do we really need a well?
Do we need a well? The well is the problem. So Dominic, do you have to have a number? No, he doesn't have to have a number? So
Yeah,
can the
I-
number be
I need a number. Yeah.
what, why doesn't he need a number, Jeff? Jeff says you don't need a number, Dominic.
Need a number to continue with your on the CDs.
So the number is plus or minus $5 from what you've got there.
What's a number?
Five.
Right, well, because I'm being generous, $5 extra. No, so like, so you have to have a hard number from us.
Yes.
Is this here to put something away for Sarah?
Did it?
Molly, were you talking to us or were you talking to somebody at home? I don't think Molly was talking to us. So, right, so right now your construction budget is
Two.
Point two.
2,
10.
Yeah,
right,
621.
okay.
That's correct.
And so, so can that be the number? Or,
That's a question for Neil, I guess. Yes, for us, because we met our
No, hold
DD
on.
obligation.
It's not, no, it's not a question for me. At 6.21 million, with everything else in the budget, that translates to a total project budget that's 155,000 higher or 135,000 higher than where we were at SD. So
right,
if the town wants to entertain a higher budget, then we can set it now at what that number is. We can call the budget at 6.2 million for construction and 8.685 overall for the whole project, and we can all move forward on the same page. But we can't say 8.5 with a $6.2 million construction budget. They're
Okay.
almost mutually exclusive if nothing else changes.
so, so that other number is 8, so can we say a total project cost of 8,685,000? Is that it?
That at 8.21 for, I'm sorry, 6.21 for construction,
Yeah,
and the cost of the well is outside of that number,
right.
then yes.
Does that work for you, Dominic?
I'm not getting there.
So it would be 6,210,000. Is that right? For construction. The cost of the design and permitting of the well is outside of that number. And And the total project cost is $8,685,000. And the goal is that it can't be higher than that. And ultimately, we would even like it to be lower than that. We'd like it to come down back to the 8,555,000.
Right.
I need to see those numbers in writing.
That's Neil's numbers.
It's Neil's numbers?
Yeah, Neil, put yours back up, please. Well,
So you're saying the total project budget needs to be
8,550.
8,685,
8,685, including all of the things.
including all of the things.
That,
And
that
we
takes,
would really like,
that $6.2 million number
right,
takes into account all of the VE items that you just accepted.
Yeah,
Yep,
It has $75,000 for the well over and above the 50 that's in the estimate. So I think we're covered on the cost of the well for design and construction, whether we cover the 75,000 or 70,000 in design costs and we move that down to testing, it's irrelevant. It figures into the bottom line of the project. So it doesn't really matter where it goes. And I'll do whatever the committee's preference is with regard to tracking that cost. And anyway, that translates to $8,685,000.
which is 135,000 over
Where we were at SD.
MSD, yeah.
So why don't we just take the ECC, the construction cost, subtract 135,000 and say, okay, architects, that's just let me see you do it. Yeah. Which means they're gonna have to come up with the items that we think we can do.
Before we move into construction documents?
Looking for a number? Here's a number.
So instead of it being 6.21, you're saying it should be 6.0. Pull that up just a little bit higher, Neil. I can see that top number. Is it 6.21? And so we want 135,000 out of there. So we want it to be, if they can get it down to 6.1, we could live with that.
6075.
So that's the number.
And we're not there yet.
And we're not there yet.
But lots of opportunities.
Yeah, with the trees.
Yeah.
With the poles. With the
chandelier.
the chandelier. With
Siding.
the siding. Siding's gonna be big, isn't it?
I think the wood components to the siding is something that we can easily swap. Considering life cycle cost. The slate has already been factored into the month or so detailing that we've already pursued and I've completed.
Okay,
So
but you also haven't included the changing from the extra door to a window and the savings on the piping on the outside.
No, that's that's
the
included,
refrigerant lines we have,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
that,
it's the one, that's the
Right.
refrigerant lines.
Right.
yeah.
yeah,
So less refrigerant lines.
Right.
So that as well, that's another
Right.
big thing.
Yeah,
You know, they're
Right.
going up and down.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that when you had this refrigerant lines above ground, you're saving 42.9 here.
Yep.
But But were you designing it with the pitch up to the roof and not straight across?
Right.
As we had, because we're eliminating the door? You went up to the roof and down.
That's right, but yeah, we had not in that included if there was going to be additional trim. I think the better option is to go down low if we can live without a door. So I think that number is there's a little bit of plus or minus in that number. Yeah,
Right,
it's not
Right.
totally hard.
right,
Yeah.
right. So Dominic, can we agree on 6,075,000 and move forward? Or
Yes,
can we do that tonight?
yes.
And,
hear a
and
motion?
can you agree on that, Dominic?
I don't know that we can meet I think it is tough for us to meet schedule with this ongoing VE effort.
Give us the numbers.
Okay, so if we give you a number, then you can go ahead with that and then go into construction design with that number. Correct?
Yeah, and so our number is 6.2 because that was our contract for DD. And we are working on VE, but just to know that the 6.2 is a safe number for us. The biggest time constraint for us is if you don't take the slate. We have already spent a month detailing the slate. The slate is on the table as a cost analysis, right?
I think no, the slate is not,
Yes, yes, it is.
is it?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because it's an expensive option, so we just
Yeah.
need to know all of the details.
Right,
And we need to know the decision we're making,
Okay.
right.
But definitely
yeah.
the Akoya.
Right.
I think the Okoye is a easy detailing
Right.
swap for us.
I mean, when you look at that, the small amount of Akoya in the project, and it's more than half the cost of the slate. That is an easy thing to, and I
Right.
just can't imagine that we aren't gonna save some money there.
We don't know the cost of cedar,
No,
so,
no,
Cedar is
Right.
an expensive product.
right.
right, but it doesn't have to be cedar, it can be hardy plank. Hardy plank is a good product. I'm getting the side eye here, Dominic. All right, okay, so listen, we're
Also,
having
before we go on,
trouble.
the other
Okay.
thing is the metal seam roof, because we've had our solar consultant
right,
design the system and the attachments. They need to
right, right,
change that.
yeah,
That's time.
right,
And we need to, if we go to asphalt shingles, they're the two big things. It's the metal seam roof and
Right.
the asphalt shingles.
right,
And
right.
our position is that, you know, we found out last week that the 6.2 construction is not good for the project. But
Well, right, here's the thing, the 6.2 construction. So the well permitting and design and testing and all of that stuff was missed. And so we have a $70,000 bill that nobody had accounted for. And so that's the problem with the 6.2.
understood.
So, you know, look, I want to know that is there a way for us to have a path forward so we can move into CDs tonight?
Okay, what about if we know that we can do some fundraising and we go halfway, we don't go to 6,075, but we don't say it's 6.2, we go to 6.1. Are you comfortable with that?
Dominic?
That's 110 if you're 130.
Yeah, I think the one thing I think that's still a bit far away for how much we can rely on these uncertainties in the VE that's still required. The one thing I do want to add to the group is that Matt and I have discussed the extent to which the DD set was detailed and priced. And it was submitted to a level of detail that we normally do not provide. We went above and beyond. So we feel confident that the number that we have for DD is stronger than what we usually expect. And so we are carrying a 5% contingency into CDs, potentially into CDs, right at this point. We are comfortable that we take one of those, a percent out of that, which is somewhere around $60,000, drop it to 4% so that we could roll that back into the budget. The DD set, we normally don't detail with exterior wall details. We don't detail with millwork details.
Right. That
Right.
makes sense.
Those
right.
kind of details you get into in the CD phase.
Okay.
So
So can you just repeat one more time what you're suggesting?
that
Dropping-
we reduce the 5% design contingency that we now have for CDs.
To 4%. And you,
And is that part of the 6.2? No, okay.
It's part of.
No, that's the soft
Part-
cost, or
Okay. This is not
that's
cost.
contingency. That's just not
Okay.
a part of the construction.
All right.
The construction.
and you estimate that would say,
So it's
$60,000.
1% of. Say again, Neil.
About $60,000.
Which is what you just said, Dominic.
Yeah.
So then that brings that 8,670.
So that brings it 135 down to 75. And we don't have the landscaping, the $117,000 of the landscaping is not accounted for.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know how much we can rely on Conservation Commission, but yes, we hope that they can work with us.
Right. Well, and we do have more value engineering things like
We
the-
have a bunch more, yeah.
right, a bunch, the millwork, that
The
can just be
acoustics.
metal shelving,
is there resilient floor in the children's room?
yes.
So can you
Yeah.
take that out?
The resilient, so there's carpeting in the adult room, there's resilient floor in the children's room. We could have the children's room be carpeting instead. That's what they had it as originally. So what? Do we have a change order contingency in this? Zero?
We're currently carrying $489,630 for construction contingency.
Yeah.
That's roughly 6% of the construction numbers, roughly, a little more actually.
Okay,
And we have another $100,000 in soft cost contingency for everything else, which frankly is probably where we should fund the well design from. So that would probably cut that number in half moving forward for the
okay.
design and testing cost.
How'd you come up with the 6% for construction? Well, the only reason I'm asking, usually for a new building, we would go with 5.
Yeah, I mean, if the committee's comfortable, we can lower it. It's your money, not mine.
I asked the question, how'd you come up with 6%?
That was probably just where we were at SD.
So if it was 5%, we're there.
Right, but in
What an
any
easy
case,
way to make money.
so Dominic, what if we said 6.2 and get rid of this 10? Cause I think you can get rid of $10,000.
I think 6.2 for me keeps the metal roof and the slate in, which we are at a point of detailing and including in the project, understanding that we are still presenting you life cycle analysis anyway. We feel that life cycle cost analysis is going to be a no-brainer with the decision on those two materials.
Okay,
Yep.
Right.
okay.
That's just our feeling. We
I think the last place I would ever be touched would be that roof or the slate.
Okay,
I agree.
okay,
I think they're functionally,
okay, all right,
to outlast
okay.
anything else. and provide
Okay, so
service.
do I-
Let's relieve.
Let me
Dr.
just say-
anxiety
Do I
about that.
hear a motion?
Yeah.
Stephen is still talking.
I was also gonna say that I think they are very important elements to the aesthetic of the building. And I think the slate in particular, it just creates a look that you don't see, and it's really gonna make that building stand out.
Unity.
Yeah.
Unity.
The-
With the glass, yes.
Okay, Brad, you have your hand up.
So I'm again trying to make sense of where we're going. And it seems like we're awfully close to a number. We know we're working on some further things, and we're faced with a choice of, I got lost. I'm not actually sure what we would be agreeing to, but faced with a decision to allow them to go forward. Now, knowing we're still working on some things,
Correct.
and if we chose not to do that, we're putting in a delay of some sort,
Right.
which has its own danger. It seemed to me those are the big sides, the two sides of
Right.
the immediate question.
So I guess I agree with you. My question is, Dominic, can you move forward with CD, knowing that you have a few more of these VEs to go through to vet, and knowing that you're cutting your contingency down to
4%.
4, and the construction contingency is down to 5. Can you move
I
forward?
think we should leave the construction contingency where it is. Okay,
Okay,
alrighty,
so can you
okay.
move forward with construction documents based on that without an absolute final number?
If we are to keep slate and metal seam roof on the job,
Yes.
Yes.
We're
because I
keeping-
think the other VE items, we're going to work hand in hand, right? You understand the detailing that we've already done and coordination to get those two
Right,
products that would
right, we
be
understand.
we're pulling the thread basically on those two items, and that
Yeah.
takes time. I
Yeah.
think everything else is manageable, and I think, you know, there's items that are not on this list that we are still going to focus on to VE millwork,
Okay.
you know, acoustic wall treatment, you know, and others that we mentioned.
Right, you have a list of them, so
Yeah.
you can continue
Yes.
that process while you go into the other, knowing that the slate and the C metal roof is decided.
Yes.
Okay, yep,
Um,
there's a lot of heads nodding here.
yeah, the question is, I guess the question is 6.1 still a construction? It's, you know, what if we can't meet 6.1 with those other items?
So would that continue the Does that include the 60K from the contingency reduction?
So I think my contingency reduction should offset some of this overage, right? And then,
I'm okay with that.
Yep. I think that,
And where is the design contingency on this chart?
It's, the design contingency is inside of the construction number. It's in the 6.2 million.
Okay, okay. All right,
okay,
That number continues to go down to the design process to zero.
okay, okay,
all right.
Construction numbers.
right, okay.
so taking away that 1% of contingency, that's $62,000.
Okay,
Yep,
6,148.
so we're at six.
Right.
148.
That's right.
And we have not talked about the landscaping.
and we can't really.
We can't,
We,
no.
no, but we have things. We have like the millwork for the library of things. That
Yeah.
does not have to be a
Yeah.
beautifully appointed wooden.
Yeah, okay, so
Yeah.
we have a bunch of things to work on.
Right.
That we can nibble away at those.
Right, right. And Dominic, so Dominic, if we. So somebody do the math of 6,210 minus the 62.
It's 6,148,000.
Okay.
I think Jeff
So if,
mentioned. or
so if we
somebody.
release you with that number,
Yes,
does that work?
correct.
But with the understanding that I really want to focus on more practical, economical options other than the standing seam metal roof and the slate, because they're all glaring at me in here. So you know, like just like I want us all to work really hard together to make sure that the costs don't go up and to bring the costs down if we can. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And Dominic, do we understand that for the remaining VE items that are still in discussion,
Mhm.
there will not be any design costs associated with implementing those VE solutions?
That's correct.
Thank you.
thank you, Neil. Okay. Are we good with this, everybody? On the committee, and Dominic, are you good with it?
Yes.
All right. Phew.
Ask Ian too.
Neil, are you good with it?
Sure.
Hmm.
Okay, then, okay.
It's nice.
All right.
It's not stupid.
Okay, so we're releasing you on this, Dominic. Do we need a motion?
And what is the motion?
The motion is okay, you go ahead.
I move, or I make a motion that we accept 6,148,000 as our budget for the construction of the library, knowing that the slate siding and the standing seam metal roof will not be changed.
And then further reductions.
Oh, and then further VE reductions will continue to be studied and then later voted on.
I second that.
Further discussion? Hearing none.
Antonella's aye.
On the side.
Foster.
Cool, aye.
Jake's aye.
Moss, I.
Vallejo, aye. Okay. There you go.
Can we see everybody's faces before we go away?
But we have more work to do.
We're not going away yet.
Let's talk about that.
We need to talk about our pre-qualification of contractors process.
Those documents.
those documents.
So we don't know.
We don't need Dominic. Dominic,
Thank
you
you.
are released, Dominic.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate all the sweat.
Oh, so we should talk about schedule in a next meeting
Yeah,
before you go anywhere.
Okay,
So are we gonna have like a design subcommittee meeting to see all the work you've been doing so far?
sure.
Wednesday at 12?
Let's see.
Wednesday, the 6th, 2 days from now.
I don't even know what day it is right now.
Today's-
Today is Thursday.
The 10th.
2 days from now,
the 10th.
the 10th.
Sure. Yep.
Hmm?
And what time, please?
Noon? Don't we like to do noon?
Yes.
Yeah. Does that work for you, Andrea? So we were doing those every 2 weeks, and at that meeting, we can then make a schedule. Okay. So I'll post it and the Zoom link will be posted online. Okay.
Okay,
And then okay, good.
Right.
Okay. Oh,
Mary Ann, that might not work for me, but I'm sure that Roger can cover for me going forward. So I'll see what I can do to arrange, or maybe we could push it back to 1 o'clock, but I'll see what I can do.
okay. 1 o'clock works for me. Does that work for you? Does 1 o'clock work for you? How about, so does 1 o'clock work for you, Neil?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a standing Wednesday morning commitment at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, and it should be done by noontime, 12:30. So
Okay,
it's a short commute from where I am, so I'm hoping I can jump back in at 1 o'clock and not miss too much.
well, so then let's say it's 1 o'clock, okay?
Okay. Yep.
All right,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
okay. Now you are.
No
dismissed.
worries. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dominic.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Bye. Have a good night.
I have to leave you to tell you about that.
Okay. Okay. So let's look at these, the worksheet and the general, contractor sample that Neil sent us.
You want me to put that on the screen?
Sure.
All right.
I think
Hold
it
on,
looked
let me find it.
straightforward from what I read. There were a few typos I was finding.
Yeah, there probably is.
But it's a sample, so.
It's a sample, right? That's what I thought.
I'll try to clean that up before it goes official.
Okay,
That one. Right, am I still sharing? No, not yet.
no, yeah.
That one?
Yep. That's.
So I will try to just sort of walk you through it, if that makes sense,
Sure.
Well,
by section.
I ask a general question first, because in my mind, this is not portion of that sheet. Any contractor who doesn't submit that, say, within the next month or two, will not be allowed to bid on this project.
Correct.
That is correct.
If this costs contractors a bunch of money to put this thing together. Because there's a document that they gotta put together, and I don't think. We wanna be disqualifying people who don't wanna spend that money to put that document together, so I'm. In my mind, I don't think that I do this. I don't think we get any advantage. But I think it's, I think we're gonna end up just with towns who can handle
The paperwork.
swallowing the cost of having somebody putting together all this stuff. And I think that's part of my job the last 3 or 4 years, reading this at the nonsense. There's a lot of work that goes involved, these qualification documents. Yeah.
I know one thing we talked about last week as an advantage was that it gets the word out about the project. So, I mean,
Well,
I am fairly terrified that we're so late in the season.
Well, the reason that I supported it was, I remember, as an example, putting the sills in the West Palm Schoolhouse, which sounds like a simple project, and it wasn't as simple as it sounded, but anyhow, we got a contractor out of Boston to do this. So, you know, this project that we're putting forward could be pulling, contractors from all over the state, regardless of the size and the fact that Shutesbury is isolated and all of that. I just, know that this is some of what we've been through in the past. So I've just been concerned that, I wanted to sort of weed that sort of thing out. Because the contractor we got out of us, he wasn't qualified. But became very highly referred. I mean, the highest referrals you could possibly imagine. But,
But with this, have we even out?
no, we had no, so what I'm saying is, there was no, so normally there is, if you don't have a weeding, process, you have to take the lowest bidder unless there's some compelling reason not. So
Doesn't this help us in some way get more qualified people to apply?
well, that was my idea of behind supporting it, but, Jeff is thinking that it's not gonna work. And he, obviously has more experience at that level than I,
I just don't know.
but, I am concerned about, every John, Dick and Harry. Bidding this.
And I'm concerned that, I think we need, I'm gonna call it a medium size. We don't need the big guys out of Boston.
But how do you make sure that's who's going to apply and
You
is?
can't make sure anything.
Yeah, right.
All this thing does is, and this is, in my opinion, this is smoke. It's always been smoke, because even if you look at the question we asked about the existing, it's nothing in here says.
You can see through it and answer it before you.
So I have a question. When we create the bid documents, when we make the bid documents, when we go out to bid, right? So can we list what we think are qualifications then?
Can we
No,
incorporate
we can't
qualifications
incorporate
in-
qualifications like public building construction or no, we can't include it. Well, Neil,
No,
no, okay.
But we can do that here.
That's the only thing. That's the difference. Is can you do it here? And you can do it. You can't do it there.
So when you get, bids from contractors, what can you use to qualify or disqualify them when you get those bids?
so they're required to provide a DCAM update statement, which includes a statement of their work in progress, as well as a statement of projects that have been completed since their last DCAM update. And we can do additional research on the contractor through DCAM to obtain additional references, as well as reach out to any references that are provided by the contractor or any references that we are made aware of through our discovery process to determine that contractor's eligibility and reliability, I might add.
And if you did the pre-qualification, would you be doing a somewhat similar approach in terms of evaluating?
We would be doing a similar approach, but we would be doing it very likely for more contractors. If we do it on bid day, I believe that the MBLC requires that we do a verification on the top 3 bids that we receive. So if we got 8 bids, we would not be doing any investigation on the lowest 3 firms. I'm sorry, on the lowest 5 firms, unless something came up that would cause us to reject one of the top 3 bids.
And the top.
I'm sorry, that was a horrible explanation. Do you understand what I said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we do.
That
When
is
you
Okay.
say the top 3 bids, you mean the lowest?
Lowest.
Yes,
Right.
Not the highest.
Yeah, okay.
And also it's the lowest qualified bidder.
right.
Neil? So it's not
Yes.
just the lowest bidder that you would be going with, it's the lowest qualified bidder.
Andrea, I'm presuming that from what we would know from opening the bid envelopes, that we would assume that the top 3 bidders are qualified until we do the research.
Mhm.
And if something comes up that's a red flag and we pursue it and we elect not to award to one of those contractors or to the lowest contractor, then you would take 2, 3, and 4 in succession, and you'd keep going until you had a pool of 3 bidders.
And also, you're gonna have to reach out to the supplier diversity office too, right? To get your WMBE
Yes,
requirements as well.
yes.
And keep in mind, if a firm does not submit on this because you go out, they can't bid.
So,
And
Andrea, do you recommend doing this?
Most of our projects do pre-qualifications.
But most of them are bigger and are required to, right?
That's right.
Isn't it a $10 million threshold?
Any municipal project over $10 million by statute has to be pre-qualified.
So I have a question. How many contractors, how many qualified contractors do you think might not want to go through this process, but then might bid? Okay.
Impossible to answer.
And keep in mind, the scale of this project is not a big project for a lot of firms that, why would they want to drive all of the Shutesbury?
Right.
You know, and then we're telling them, if you don't pre-qualify, you can't play in.
Want Western bidders. They're right down the road. Tell them they can do this.
We want those guys who want that.
it's a big house.
Father and son, it's a big house.
Right, and so here's another question. Say if we don't do the pre-qualification and we, and then we go out to bid. Can we send the bid documents to contractors that we know of?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll do that.
So, hold on, time out, stop for a minute. What I would recommend is that we are probably going to use an electronic plan distribution service through a local print shop to obtain documents. And I would suggest that it would be proper for the town to reach out to contractors that they know and direct them to obtain plans from the plan holders, as opposed to being a secondary plan distributor to contractors that you know.
Okay,
right? We want those contractors to be registered with the plan distribution warehouse or service so that they will receive addendum by email as they are issued.
okay,
If they don't register through the plan distribution warehouse, then we can't guarantee that they're gonna get the addendum. And
Okay.
that's a fatal flaw in their bid.
okay.
I have another question too. So Neil, because
Yes.
I don't think I should be the one who's asked which way should you go. That should be, you have
Yep.
more experience with this.
Yes.
However, we are building a highly efficient, sustainable building. A lot of contractors, if you're thinking about contractors who do more of, you'd be looking at commercial contractors, I would hope. Or are you looking at residential contractors as well? And how would you,
They would, any general contractor would have to be DCAM certified.
right. And I'm just throwing this out there because the smaller firms may not have experience with building this type of building. I know in dealing, so that's my only caveat to this for qualification, that they know what they're doing when they get into this.
Would be the best thing to over if we could shoot ourselves.
I couldn't hear you with that, I'm sorry.
Jeff said this could be the best thing in the world, or we could shoot ourselves in the foot with this.
With the pre-qualification.
Yeah.
And Neil, what do you think?
So I think I shared with the building committee last week that the bar for pre-qualification at the state is not a particularly high bar to get over. The lower the dollar value in the project, the more financially viable more firms become. Right? Usually when a firm is not qualified, it's because they cannot be bonded or cannot be financially backed by a surety to bid a project of this size. And that becomes, if you went in other words, if you went onto the DCAM website and said, give me every certified contractor whose single project limit is 6.3 million or above, it's a smaller number than every contractor that's 6.3 million or below, right? The smaller the number, the more contractors are qualified. So a $6.5 million project is not a particularly high bidding threshold for general contractors in Massachusetts. It may be more significant for smaller contractors in and around the Springfield area, but I really don't think it's a huge lift for many contractors. So I think you might have a lot of interest. How many of those show up on bid day is always a guess on my part. We usually see somewhere between 60 to 75% for a range of pre-qualified contractors that actually follow through with a bid. I don't necessarily believe that this process is going to be incredibly fruitful. We may eliminate one or two general bidders through the process based on averages. If we got 10 contractors, I'll bet 8 would easily qualify to bid on the project. And we might, out of those 8 contractors, we might get 5 or 6 bids. And we don't have the luxury of running these in parallel, one pre-qualified, one doesn't, and see what we get for participation on general contractors. We never have that ability to do it in parallel. So I know it was a long answer and it wasn't a direct yes or no, but it is the reality. Once a contractor is pre-qualified, unless something drastic changes in their update statement, it is very difficult to not accept their low bid after the fact. I'm sure that there are instances out there where things materially changed. But normally, once they're in and pre-qualified, they're in the bidding pool. And if they submit the low number, the ability to bounce them after the fact is particularly harder.
Also, my concern is that actually there's the cost firms wanting to put this together. Which means you're gonna get a bigger firm. This is a small project. They're gonna give you the C.
Yeah,
They're not gonna give.
they're not gonna give you the A team, you're gonna get the C team from the bigger firms, or you're gonna, if we don't do pre-qualified, you'll get the A team from a smaller firm that wants to
No guarantee.
jump in. There's no guarantee, there's no guarantee.
I don't really know what to do.
In fact,
Okay, but
steer.
so so if we don't do the pre-qualification, we still check references.
Yes,
Um,
it happens post-bid instead
Right.
of pre-bid.
Right, so it's not like we take the 3 best bids and we don't, we then check and see if they are, like, meet all of this criteria.
Most.
Most of it,
No.
okay.
You know, I think really. The one driver is going to be. A lot of the smaller units aren't going to be able to meet the volume requirement.
And so then they're not gonna apply. Okay,
All right, I'm gonna
Okay.
make a motion, cause it's 9:51. I'm gonna make a motion that we do not do pre-qualification of our contractors.
I second.
Further discussion? Are we ready to vote?
oh, God, oh, it's Melissa.
Yes.
Thomas, I.
Rule,
Moss,
Moss, I.
Vallejo, aye. We are not doing pre-qualification.
God help us.
that's a fact. We need God in that corner. Definitely.
All right,
All right, well,
Okay.
we made that decision.
what else is on the agenda?
Committee liaison reports.
Oh,
No Concom ones, no site ones.
Concom
well,
is next
Concon,
week,
we meet next week,
Right.
yeah.
7:00 on Thursday.
yeah,
By the way, we saved ourselves $50,000.
We saved
Right.
$50,000.
right, yes,
See.
maybe, yes. All right,
Oh, well,
Yeah.
is it eligible?
yeah, well, we saved 15, we don't have to add $15,000 to the total project cost, yes, okay,
Okay,
all right,
I hear a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second, oh, good, Jeff
Do we
seconded.
need to set another meeting before we adjourn?
Our meeting dates are set for Tuesdays. We have,
I thought that was a.
Wednesday.
oh, you know what?
Next Wednesday.
Wednesday's the,
Full.
Design subcommittee
Design
at 1
subcommittee.
o'clock.
our next meeting is supposed to be on the 16th, and it's the same time as the special town meeting.
So I think we won't really have much to discuss at that point anyway.
Okay.
Do we want to bump it out 2 weeks after that?
2 weeks or 1 week,
You can always follow me if something comes up.
right?
Yeah, well, I'll just zoom in from Costa Rica.
Oh,
We'll
Put
put it,
find a place to stay?
we'll
Mary-
have it,
Mary Ann,
Yes,
can I recommend that you hold the date on the 16th and we bring some closure to the other VE items?
good idea.
there's a special town
we can
meeting
make-
that night.
We can make it earlier. We can
How
make
about
it-
how about the 23rd?
That works. Is that the following Tuesday?
Yes,
So do it the following week? Okay,
23rd?
Just let you know, I'm 16th.
you'll be, okay, so am I. Really? Where are you? Oh, we're gonna be together. And Pam Wasowski. Okay.
I'm going to month out.
Okay, are you
Right,
really?
are we, wait a minute.
All right.
It's
All right. okay.
January 23rd
At 7?
at 7.
Yeah,
Here.
okay. I'll be in Costa Rica. I'll
No,
start the
not
Zoom.
Here, it'll be a Zoom.
Okay.
Okay,
And
Third month.
Mary Ann, I think that you should send or ask Dominic by email to confirm that he'll have his consultant's pricing for the various VE work and the life cycle cost analysis available for that night.
okay. VE and life cycle cost
Contractors.
analysis.
I think it benefits him
Okay,
and more so him than the town, but both parties to bring the VE thing to closure and get out of each other's way. so
okay,
He can get the documents finished.
okay,
Sounds good.
okay. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna be a thorn in his side. Okay, okay.
Now do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn,
I second.
Antonellis, aye.
down the side. Well,
Jake's eye.
Moss eye.
Vallejo, aye. We have adjourned as of 9:55. Thank you all for hanging in there.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Thanks, Andrea. Good night, Roger. Thanks, Neil.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
My wife got me on